Alright, karibu sana hapa Morning Cafe katika TV47 na kuambia the month of August is about to end. This is the very last week of August and this, I'm telling you, we could just as well begin that Christmas countdown.
Yeah.
It's about 120 days to
Yes. 121.
Oh, 121.
Yes.
Yo moja umeongeza wapi? Anyway, karibu sana. This is the Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. This one is hotter than your coffee.
Oh yes, I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyeringita. It's a marvelous Monday morning. Today actually is National Toilet Paper Day. Whatever you do with that information is up to you. It reminds me back in the day when
there was no toilet paper.
Yes, and you're in school and you have to use other means. But anyway, for your information, that is...
Is it issue Anyway, State of the Nation, a lot to talk about today, yes, including matters to do with education funding, the crisis in education, and we'll be looking at this. Plus, the return of Moses Kuria into President William Ruto's inner circle.
Yes.
You know, now he's back and he's an economic advisor. Eliud Owalo also made a comeback. So we'll be looking at some of these happenings with my power panel every Monday, Dr. Mumbingaru, Philip Kisia, and Kipruto Arap Kirwa. So do stand by for this conversation.
Oh yes, into health matters, because it's a Monday, we discuss cornea eye transplant. Cornea is like the window of your eyes. So if it is disturbed, what happens to that? Dr. Priyanka Buyar will be telling us all about that. And later on, matters skincare, enzyme therapy treatment. Malka Wambui will also be telling you how to ensure your skin is as smooth as possible.
And when you talk about skin, I've realized over the last couple of weeks, you've been focusing quite a lot on matters skincare. Are you changing something?
Are you seeing the progress?
I'm only ambiwa yo skin yako inakaje. Anyway,
no, but you're seeing the progress, right?
Well,
you can see it.
I'm not sure I'm seeing anything.
Maybe the viewers can, a whole smooth skin. But anyway, to the dailies right now, crisis in schools.
Yes, so this is the biggest discussion, of course, with that a strike by teachers, especially secondary school teachers. That and a lot more. There's a lot more happening. KNUT called off their strike, but secondary schools will still be affected, and it is a big discussion on the front page of the Standard.
This is our place, still on matters education, and they talk to a number of students on what, particularly, who are in secondary school.
Yes, especially those who are anticipating to sit for their KCSE exams. What happens when the teachers stay away from school during the third term?
And this is the shortest.
It happened to us in 1999 when I was in school.
You mean 79?
Kenya Airways 6 states help over 1.5 billion shillings blocked in Ethiopia. These people just reported a profit.
Juzi tu
ile ku clean books wakaambiwa ukisema kuna $500,000.
Lakini
bado kuna pesa imefungiwa mali Ethiopia. Ikifunguliwa itakuwa maneno sawa.
Na pale unasikia ikiwa huko Ethiopia ina lose value pia. Ikaa sana huko. So wanataka uitoe kwa haraka sana. We'll be telling you about that in a few.
Matters business. Back to the big story. Ruto's grand plan for Raila. Matters diplomacy. But matters education still featuring on the front page. HELB now blames cheating for varsity funding mess. Yesterday at night, President William Ruto held another town hall.
Yes.
This time specifically to address the crisis when it comes to university funding. We'll be looking at that as well.
Ruto achumbia Nyanza. Tunakuambia mengi kuhusu program ya President William Ruto this coming week.
And you see the choice of photo here, because I had to go read down here to know who is this guy who's facing on the other side. It's actually Raila Odinga.
Yes.
But you see the president's photo. This is a very well chosen photo. It means this guy is exiting and this guy is one looking in. Kuna nini? Ruto achumbia Nyanza. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Let's take a look at regional matters. This is the front page of the East African. It says more protocols than trade for East Africa businesses. Years after the customs union and the common markets protocols were passed, businesses, players lament low intra-block trade. This is also coming on the backdrop of the whole bid to reduce the coal tariffs in East Africa, which are quite expensive. So we're going to be having more conversations about East Africa businesses and how they affect each other.
Yeah, I like the photo they've chosen for the front page. The commander-in-chief, this is Samia Suluhu Hassan, in military fatigues, looking very fine. She had visited some of the soldiers training along the Tanzanian coast. Unajua William Ruto hajafika hapa. Uhuru Kenyatta had already done it. Usually they do it in their second term when they get comfortable. In their first term unaweza anza kuvaa hivi alafu amboe boss.
So tuanza kuona ile caricature anatoa counter suits anaweka kwa wardrobe,
anaanza kuvaa military fatigues.
They also make mention of Raila Odinga's AU bid, and they say Odinga's AU ambitions formally on weeks after opposition leader helped Ruto stem Gen Z protests, he is slowing down on local politics for continental campaigns.
Yes, but in another daily here, they talk about him being in the inner circle of President William Ruto. So endo na chief advisor huko ndani. So sijui kama ameenda kweli kweli. Across the border in Uganda, ring of approval for phones in schools. This story came out last week that the government has actually allowed students to use these gadgets, including mobile phones and tablets, inside classrooms. What do you think of that?
I love the play of words there. Ring of approval.
Simu zitakuwa zinalia tu as they say smart learning. Education Minister Janet Museveni. Now you see that's where the game changes.
Yeah.
When she says something, hata president haezi pay.
Inabidi.
Minister akisema, huyu ni chief super minister. Education Minister Janet Museveni says a proposal contained in the ministry's digital agenda to allow learners carry gadgets to school aims to ease teaching and learning and promote research among learners. And this is actually something commendable.
Yeah.
We are living in that age. Kubali simu na gadget. Find a way to ensure that these people still actually learn.
Yeah.
AI is here with us. You cannot ignore it. Yeah.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, the learners who in the 844 system, particularly in primary schools, zile public, they're competing with learners who are in a different kind of a system.
True.
And at the end of the day, they're going to be in a competitive industry where no one looks at, kuna mtu anajali pale ulisomea, everyone wants you to achieve.
And things have really changed over time. Yes. Kitambo, even having a calculator in class was a problem. Yeah. Now calculators were eventually allowed. Now you can see mobile phones making. Kidogo utakuwa unaingia na laptop for class, high school, for an exam. Also a picture there, a cancer run, thousands lace up in a bid to end disease. This was a marathon that was held yesterday in Kampala, Uganda. And you can see some of the participants. It's the same photo on the front page of the New Vision as well. The Rotary Cancer Run, this happened yesterday. Thousands ran for Radiotherapy Center. Meanwhile, matters education.
If you thought that in Kenya, it is just in Kenya where medical interns wanafinyiliwa, pia Uganda, they say 1,200 interns not posted. Why? Because of lack of funds. And according to Kaguta Museveni, Uganda's president, the medical interns should just meet their own costs.
Yes. This, we had this headline
Same script,
a couple of months back. Yes. Where medical interns were up in arms saying, hey, you have to get us jobs, pay us 200 and I don't know how much, 1,000. Now you see it's the same problem in Uganda.
Museveni anawaambia nyinyi by the way.
Kwanza mujilipie hiyo pesa mnasema mujilipe. That's the new vision. In Uganda. Over in Tanzania now we have a different image of Samia Suluhu Hassan in her usual, is it a niqab?
Hijab.
Hijab or a niqab, that one. Samia, kwa nini nilisema Simba aitwe Lissu?
So la siasa pale.
Yes. Tundu Lissu ni jamaa wa opposition.
Opposition, pinzani pale Tanzania.
Ile banter between the president and the opposition leader. Alafu the opposition leader asema rais hajakosea kumuita hivyo. Aeleza ilivyo ni maana Kinyaturu. Simba aitwe Lissu. Panya pia tishio homa ya nyani, mpox. Now this is what should worry us more.
Even as Kenyans, really, yes.
Wataalamu wasema uchunguzi wa virusi yanavimelea umebaini wanyama hao pia ni wasambazaji wa virusi vya ugonjwa huo. Tahadhari zazidi kutolewa namna ya kujikinga. Panya sasa pia ni tishio kwa masuala ya mpox. Meanwhile, more cases continue being reported in Kenya.
Venye panya zimejaa huku nchini Kenya. On the front page of The Citizen, they go the whole conversation. In case you're planning to trek on Mount Kilimanjaro, read about this. They say fresh controversy threatens $50 million US dollars Kili trekking industry. The local tour operators and the foreign affiliated organization are on a brink of a dispute that threatens to put the Mount Kilimanjaro multi-million-dollar trekking industry in the crossfire. That is on page 2. But then there's a very interesting story on the bottom there of a family, siblings who are left stranded after their parents walked out on the...
Yes, wazazi wamechoka wakasema tu
by the way,
Mujipange, and they walked out. So a 17-year-old girl has been forced to drop out of school to take care of her siblings. It's a very sad story, and it's not the kind of story you expect on the front page of a daily. In Kenya, you'd never see such a story on the front page of a daily, but it is a story that needs to be highlighted either way. To those parents, Mungu anawaona. All right. Those are the dailies, and we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in depth. For now, let's take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. It's Monday traffic, nothing much happening.
Some yellow spots here and there.
Hapa hii ni ile barabara inaingia Kenyatta Avenue just before you get to the Uhuru Highway, getting into town. Traffic already building up on that roundabout. Meanwhile, on the other end, this is Jogoo Road. Interesting because just before you get to that roundabout for, what do you call it, St. Stephen Jogoo Road, you can see both sides of the road. There's traffic on both sides, heading away from town and heading towards town. So there's a lot of traffic along Jogoo Road, this area here, Makongeni. Mahali kuna ile barabara ya kwenda Isli from Jogoo Road. There's a lot of traffic there. Makadara too, also building up slowly. But Jogoo Road appears to be problematic this morning. If at all you've not gone past this point, that's, yes, this area, that barabara Isili, Likoni Road, St. Stephen's Jogoo Road, imesimama for now. Both sides of the road, so there's a problem there.
Is there Panya route to escape to avoid
There's
that
so
traffic?
many, but I think that's a problem because if you want to come to town and probably there's a problem here, you go towards Isili and use the Shauri Moyo back routes there.
Ndio maana watu imeanza pia kufungana na hapo.
So, but this one will be causing a problem if it stays like this, if it persists longer than that. Let's take a look at Pangani. Pangani is looking good. Nothing much. No build up yet. It is already almost 12 minutes past 6, but there's nothing here. So Pangani, Thika Road, looking good. I think Jogoo Road is the biggest problem this morning. On the southern part of town, and you take a look at Mombasa Road, also towards town, nothing much happening. I think it's only slowing down once you get towards Nyayo Stadium, but nothing much to report there. This is the side I can see, yes, yetu kwa tumeangalia. Langata Road looking good. Mbagathi Way 2 looking fine this morning. Ngong Road,
Finally,
around Prestige Plaza, the usual, but nothing much to report. But the other big road is Wayaki Way. You can see here at the entrance to the bypass, to the expressway, just before you get to Westlands. I think that's the only place we have a problem. Other than that, everything is looking good.
Pale nje ya Nairobi School.
Hata pale nje ya Nairobi School, this is, yes, a bit of a slowdown pale, opposite Kabarsirana Avenue. But after that, it's looking good into town. That's the traffic situation this morning.
On the traffic, let's take a look at the weather updates and see in different parts of the country. Over the weekend, it was quite chilly, by the way. After Niwambi on Friday, jitayarisheni for that. Let's take a look at, we'll start with Nakuru, and I'll be telling you why Nakuru is very important. Basically, President William Ruto will be in Nakuru today. It is 14 degrees, but then they say it feels like 13. Chances of it raining, some above average rainfall today into the afternoon is quite high, so prep yourself for that as well. And the Editorial Ruto as well. On to Turkana, to the high, to the north side of Kenya, 24 degrees Celsius. The highest for today is 33 degrees. This is not one weather that you're going to be seeing sides Nairobi. And in Laikipia, you do expect, obviously, some chilly weather, 13 degrees Celsius right now. And they say the precipitation 0%. It's going to be actually leo ni rays of sunshine, but then highest then utapata ni about 20. And finally, in Nairobi, 13 degrees, similar to Laikipia, but then it is going to be quite cloudy, particularly in the evening for today. So brace for that. That just tells you it's going to be chilly, but no chances of raining for today. And highs of about 19 degrees. That is how the weather is going to be looking like. A brief update on the diary. Just to allude to what I had mentioned earlier, President William Ruto will be presiding over the 88th Passing Out Parade for the National Youth Service, NYS, at Gilgil. That is in Nakuru County. We'll be telling you all about that. That Passing Out Parade begins at around 10 a.m., so stick around for that. Number 2, that is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, at around 8 a.m. will be chairing the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council meeting. This will bring about governors, cabinet secretaries, and other stakeholders at his current residence today. So we'll be telling you more about that and how important this whole bit of intergovernmental budget, particularly even for county. So nyinyi endeni mfunze wanafunzi. So schools countrywide will be resuming for the third term. And the shortest Meanwhile, speaking of strikes, teachers from the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education are expected to boycott beginning today for the third term calendar. So we do obviously expect quite a number of activities from teachers of post-primary, that is for high school, going up for higher learning institutions. That, in a nutshell, is what to expect in our news diary, in our digital platforms as well. Right now, though, let's get deep into the newspaper review.
Yes, on the Standard, education is still the biggest discussion. Crisis in schools is the big headline on the front page of this paper. Whereas primary school teachers will be in class today, their secondary school colleagues have vowed to stay away. This coupled with the risk of mpox, parents struggling with fees, and administrators disgruntled with capitation, a return to school has been complicated. They just paint a picture of just the number of problems and tough issues that the education sector is grappling with as we begin the third term, which is very crucial because the national exams, especially for the secondary schools, are happening this term. The good thing is, for the first time, we won't be having KCP exams in a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
But we have KCSE. So even as KNUT say they've not called off they've called off their strike.
Haina uzito kama sana.
Haina uzito, KUPPET ndio muhimu zaidi because hapo ndio kuna KCSE. So debt misery for Ruto as credit rating drops again is another story on the front page. And another story, President's men, Mudavadi Haji now sit at high table.
Hey.
And even Raila Odinga is on that list, the President's men. There's been such a movie before, the President's men. But there's a very interesting story on page 3 of the Standard today.
Yes, yenyewe imeniguza mahali.
And it talks about blood spots on baby girls' diapers. And they're calling it false menses. But they say, picture this. As a new mother, you are changing your newborn baby girl's diaper only to notice spots of blood. What would go through your mind? Will you just be calm about it? Would you accuse your husband, your spouse, of defiling your child, just like Stacy did? She almost separated from her husband. That story is on page 3.
She was changing the baby's diapers. Akaona the blood.
And the first thought is...
Akakimbia sitting room. What did you do?
That's a very sad story. That's on page 3 of the Standard.
After kwenda hosi anaambia, no, this is normal.
Normal. Then you come back.
Anarudi pole makosa.
Your story meisha. By the time you come back, I'm done. I am done. Anyway.
What do you think, back at home, wherever you're watching us from, what do you do? Even as you read this on page 3 of the Standard, it's quite an interesting story there.
Let's flip the paper and take a look at sports. And yes, it's a beautiful photo on the back page of the Standard today. I'm telling you.
The only
jersey,
the only beautiful thing, yes, is the jersey.
The jersey.
The jersey.
The new Arsenal jersey. And we have 3 Arsenal players celebrating.
Away jersey.
Arsenal midfielder Leandro Trossard celebrates with his teammates after scoring a goal during the EPL match against Aston Villa Park on Saturday. So they call him Super Sub Trossard. Proves his worth again. It was 2-0. Eh?
Si lazima mention hizo games zingine zilichezwa.
Hizo zingine kama wengine hapa naona ni kama Brighton na Man United. Man United lost 2-1. Man City meanwhile beat others 4-1. Southampton lost to Nottingham. Palace lost to West Ham. Fulham beat Leicester. Yes, but the big one and the one that the Standard has chosen to highlight is the biggest team in Europe, and that's the Arsenal.
Let's talk about serious matters. Because of the fact that I'm lead kwa table speaks a lot. This is our plea, even as Manchester United is also a plea. Matters teacher strike. They say KCSE candidates are urging the government to solve the pay dispute to avert the tutor strike as the event-packed third term begins today. This as the 2 main teachers' unions are split on the industrial action. The rift emerged last evening when KNUT withdrew its notice just hours after KUPPET had voted to endorse the boycott. And in the governing council, only 2 voted no, the rest voted for it. But then a conversation that not many dailies are having, apparently the pay has delayed for the police who are in Haiti. That is according to the relatives. And the paper talked to a couple of families of Kenyans who are in there. This despite quite a bunch of monies which was released. It is about 14.1 billion Kenyan shillings, which was ordered by U.S. Secretary of State, that is Anthony Blinken, to finance the mission that was approved by United Nations. Other headlines, pale chini, Ruto, Gachagua and Mount Kenya's game of numbers over the weekend. Sijui kama umeona zile memes za whatever you do, bora usiguze Murima. Have you seen those memes?
Yes, I've seen a couple of them.
Then something else interesting as well. Apparently, the special police unit was used in abductions during the anti-tax demos wakati wa
The commando style.
wakati wa maandamano. And those are the dailies on
I couldn't help but notice that one of those KCSE candidates interviewed, his name is Fabregas. Fabregas Nyongesa. I'm telling you, the Arsenal is a very powerful team.
Anasalimia watu namwambia my name is Fabregas, and then una expect jina pili kwe unasikia Nyongesa. KQ now says 6 states help over 1.5 billion cash shillings blocked in Ethiopia. The funds frozen in Addis banks on forex restrictions. Say, according to the CEO of KQ, that is Alan Kilavuka, the talks are underway to ease the blockade.
So achia watu hiyo pesa yao.
The headlines on the ticker on the right side. First off, the Auditor General flags 1.3 billion Kenyan shillings paid to City Hall workers. Apparently, more than 1.3 billion was set for payment of workers by the national county government. Cannot be traced to the salary account. That is according to the Auditor General. Okay. And something that Kenyans are also talking about, Starlink. Why Safaricom fears Elon Musk's Starlink? Now, Kenyans have started using this, and they're really just showing you the whole progress when you compare the costs and the speed of Starlink compared to even for Safaricom. This definitely is raising eyebrows in Kenya.
Interesting.
Yes.
There's one more headline here that should concern many business owners. Company dissolutions rise on KRA clampdown. And they say business owners are increasingly dissolving companies amid increased scrutiny from the Kenya Revenue Authority and strict regulatory demand. This is according to official data. So as far as business is concerned. Yes. Tuangazie gazeti zingine.
On People Daily, Ruto's grand plan for Raila. Matters diplomacy, they say President activates African networks, setups, secretariat and assembles a dream campaign team as he officially launches Kenyan candidates bid for AU job. He'll be doing this tomorrow, I believe, the whole official. According to Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, President William Ruto is set to officially launch Raila's bid.
Pale chini kuna ndege mara mbili, I think it was an error. The alarm over Kenya's disappearing birds, but teachers union split on strike. There should have been a different photo. Yeah. Kuna mtu alilala kazini pale People Daily. Oops, nime highlight. Sasa dosi wake amesikia.
Naambiwa ni mtu Arsenal.
Ruto achumbia Nyanza. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Ziara yake katika ngome kuu ya Raila Jumatano yatazamwa kama mwanzo wa urithi wa kura za Odinga. Yes, the president will be visiting Nyanza region this week, starting Wednesday. Yes, and they've chosen this very beautiful photo. The president looking at the opposite direction. The gentleman looking away is Raila Odinga, meaning he's leaving. Yeah. And Ruto now is checking in. Achumbia. Lakini mfumo wa ufadhili masuala ya elimu, Kalonzo aonya rais, ataka serikali ibatilishe mfumo mpya. Kwingineko wa Kenya 14 wanusuriwa danguruoni India, danguroni. Waganda wawili pia waokolewa katika ukahaba.
Okay.
India, 14 Kenyans wako kule.
That's some serious stuff there.
And finally, I think one more highlight here, Arsenal, City wafyatuka, Chelsea wa
All right. And counties cash crisis, governors up in arms, and they talk about hiyo maneno ya counties. They say headache governors, Governor Sakaja says city forced to abandon development and pay salaries. Other conversations there, They also go the Haiti bit. Haiti Kenyan cops get new 24 armored cars. But then a whole other conversation on the left strip. Kopet digs in, but not calls off teacher strike, a conversation that we've seen on other dailies. But something interesting, or matters siasa, Kalonzo pulling all stops to face Ruto in 2027 polls. According to this paper, they say that Azimio might just be pushing Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, as well as Siaya Governor James Orengo, to replace Raila Odinga in that particular bit. And speaking of Raila Odinga, they also go with inside Odinga's 8-point plan for Africa in AU Quest. Governor Sakaja mentioned twice there, Pale Ju, here are my achievements. Rivals don't scare me. There's a whole exclusive interview that the Star had with AKA Sachs.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's focus on the cartoons now as we come to the end of this news review. And the caricature of this gentleman, ukiangalia hairstyle, there's only one person who has this kind of hairstyle in the Senate. The senator for Narok, Ledama Olekina, he made a few remarks. He even did an opinion piece in one of the dailies following the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza, and he talked about the integrity of the Senate. And so this means he has opened a can of worms. And as far as Senate integrity is concerned, he's a senator, which means he could be actually punished because of this. And he says, it is what it is. The commentator says, we've got to deworm it. But ameongea ukweli, lakini wamemwekea kichana kwenye nywele.
It is what it is.
Afro, it is what it is. That's a standard, the cartoon on the standard. The cartoon on the Star talks about the crisis in education and the different issues that parents and teachers have to deal with. This is a parent who's carrying a child who has a very big burden already in as far as the curriculum is concerned. Bag ni kubwa kuliko mtoto, lakini nani anabeba huyo mtoto? Ni mzazi bado. Then he has to scale the stairs. Teacher strike is happening. University funding model is there. And the government is demanding registration to shift.
By October.
By October. Hii yote ni mzazi anafanya bana. Mnachokesha, punda amechoka. The cartoon on the Star today.
On the Daily Nation, they do have it. Attention class. This is a gentleman wearing a green, looks like a pullover, and is trying to educate someone there on matters money. But then the student, there's the government, just amelala ile design ya class. This was one of the best sleeps in class back then. Ukilala hivyo. But then the government is not heeding to the advice it is being told when it comes to money matters.
It's pesa, lakini jamaa amelala. The government is least concerned about that lesson. On People Daily, Stano's take, yes, they say here Musalia Mudavadi has a very tough job. Yes, Kenya is marketing the new unity government to foreign allies. Now the bit is how to explain what is really happening in Kenya. You know, we have a government and we have what used to be opposition, but it's not really opposition.
But then the people who are still in the opposition.
Because we have minority and majority in parliament. So let's not use the word opposition. You shouldn't.
Yes.
So in Kenya, we've mixed it up.
The English.
It is a crossbreed of government and the opposition, which is not really opposition, but it is there in government now. Yes. This is a crisis we have in Kenya today. And it's Musalia Mudavadi's job to explain to all the foreign allies what exactly is happening in Kenya. Well, just some of the few discussions we'll be having with my panelists after the break. Do stand by for that conversation and a lot more, of which, of course, always you can be part of through our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya.
Oh, yes. 22047 is our SMS number. 0793 267 279 is our WhatsApp number. Coming up on Matters Health around 8 to 10. Stick around for that. The hashtag, kama kawaida, is Morning Cafe. Sibanduke.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimudi. Time for the state of the nation. A quick look at the headlines today. A lot of focus on matters education with a funding crisis, with a looming strike by teachers, which begins today, incidentally, especially by post-primary teachers who are represented through the CUPET union. Meanwhile, KNUT, the union representing primary school teachers, called off a strike yesterday. This has been captured in even some of the cartoons, just what we're seeing. The cartoon on the Daily Nation has a teacher trying to explain to the government that sleeping in class matters to do with money. The government appears least interested in that conversation. On the Star, we do have a caricature of a parent who's struggling to carry the child who's a learner, who's already facing and carrying an even bigger burden in terms of the curriculum. And the parent still has to scale the stairs, and the stairs represent some of the issues and challenges, including the teachers' strike, university funding model, the demand by government that all children should be registered under the SHIF, and many other things. So definitely matters education, a big talking point. On the top 2 dailies this morning, this is our plea, KCSE candidates pleading with the government to do something to avert the teachers' strike, which begins today. Meanwhile, on the Standard, crisis in schools. So definitely that's a big discussion this morning. Allow me to introduce my panelists, beginning on my immediate right. Dr. Mumbin Garu, who has served as a member of the East African Legislative Assembly, also served as mayor of Thika Town. Karibu sana.
Asante, good morning.
Next to Dr. Ngaru, we have Philip Kisia, leadership and governance expert, and also served as town clerk of this great city of Nairobi. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Kipruto Rapkirwa, who served as agriculture minister in the Kibaki 1 administration. Karibu sana.
It's my pleasure.
And as far as education is concerned, because now it appears we've gotten to a crisis level, it's something we've been talking about since President William Ruto took over, and within a month or so, he set up what he called the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms. That should have assisted him to do a lot of things and probably rectify so many things. But it would appear that, at least as far as public is concerned, he's not getting it right. Or is he, Dr. Ngaru?
Wow. It's a big question. But from where I sit, Fred, I get angry when we discuss education, because I can see a trend of wasting a generation. If some of us went through what parents are going through today, I would have probably ended up a house girl in somebody's home. And this is why I feel angry that we are not getting it. We are not listening to the plea of parents, of teachers, of students themselves. And, you know, I think it's deliberate. It's being planned by whoever is planning it, just to bring down, a continuation of wasting our children. Because we have had the experts. Nobody is listening. You look at an analysis that was in the papers the other day, just about bursaries that get wasted in different structures. And that alone is enough to do a clean, neat, free education. So from where I sit, no wonder the person you are trying to talk to is sleeping, because it's deliberate and it is annoying.
Okay.
I don't know how to comfort the parents. I don't know how to comfort the children themselves. But let all of us think about the children that we are wasting. From where we sit, the three of us, maybe Philip could be having somebody in school. Personally, I don't have children my own in school, but I'm related to people who are having children in school. And from where I sit, the issue of running away from reality is giving us problems. Guess what? I can afford to take my children, my grandchildren, to a better school, a private school. How many are those? And then after we take them out of that system, where do we take them? To a country that has collapsed, work with those that have not benefited from that good education that we enjoyed? We are in a crisis.
It is definitely.
Yes, we are in a crisis, and we just have to be open and talk about it. And get, not just to relieve the pain, but get solutions. Okay. Thank you.
Bonakisia, yesterday night, the president, he held his second town hall meeting, this time specifically to address the issues around the new university funding model. Because the government has insisted that it is an issue of communication, that the misunderstanding, the uproar that's there from the general public over some of these decisions is simply an issue of miscommunication. But do you agree that it's purely a communication problem?
Fred, good morning, and good morning, colleagues. Even before we talk about miscommunication, there must be something to communicate. If you have nothing to communicate, the results will be zero. Garbage in, garbage out. So we cannot blame the people who have been given the job to communicate, and they have nothing to communicate. I think, let us just go back to history. And I've always said that I'm not a very good student of history, but I've been around for some time. And I'm glad that Mumbi, my sister, has recognized the fact that I'm still active and I have children in school. And I'm sure my brother, Kiro, my senior brother, is also not too far from where I am. But let me say this. If you look at this country since independence, the 4 presidents who have been there have laid a very strong foundation on education. They have laid a lot of emphasis on education. And that is why we are where we are today. That is why Kenya is extremely competitive in the global scene. Then came my president, Emeritus Emilio Mwai Kibaki. He gave us free education within 100 days. Free. From paying to free, completely free. Then we had Muigai, son of Kenyatta. He added us free secondary education. We were hoping that the son of Samoi, who went through the challenges that most of us went through, would have given our children free university education. I know they talk about affordability. I know they talk about competing interests and we have meager resources. But the fact remains that if we stop stealing the resources we have, if we stop corruption, this country has more than enough money to educate all our children for free. Just start off by looking at the amount of money that are allocated in bursaries. Billions of shillings. Can we account for that money? No, we can't account for that money. Just look at the money that we steal from this republic. Edible oil. To date, nobody's in jail. Nobody's in jail. Look at the money that we lost in fertilizer. We steal, we are thieves. All this money put together and the money that we waste, appointing some very useless people, creating useless offices that have no bearing on this country, that cannot add value to this country. If we put all that money into proper use, we'll have sufficient, enough money to educate our children. The problem is not even communicating. Those who have been given the responsibility of communicating have nothing to communicate.
Wow. They have nothing to communicate. Bonakirwa, there's a lot of talk around bursaries, and Bonakisi has mentioned it. Yeah. And we saw last week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, that even the Speaker of the National Assembly held a kamukunji with members of the National Assembly, specifically to discuss this issue around education and the funding for education. It would appear that many realize, and even the institutions that govern this country realize, that there's a problem. But it would appear we still don't have a proper solution. Everyone is clutching on straws, trying to find the best fit for something that we already had a presidential working party on education reforms to do that for us. Where exactly are we getting it wrong?
Well, Fred, thank you for the opportunity to share with Kenyans and to share with the panel a number of thoughts. One of the main issues is, as has been said by my friend Philip Kisia, who believes that I'm no longer active, but indeed I am, in other fields, not in the fields that is a specialist. But suffice to say the following: what worries me every day is the fact that there are so many gatekeepers for any money that comes from the coffer, the public coffers. You realize that there is money that's supposed to be done by the MCA in terms of bursary, member of parliament, the county government, the central government. And why isn't it easy for us, because we know all these students come from certain locality, to put all this money in one kitty so that the gatekeepers are reduced? Because for every roadblock from here to Kitale, there's something to be lost. And therefore, these positions that we say, this is for MCS, this is for so-and-so, we are just increasing the number of people handling this money, and therefore this money is going to disappear through our fingers. That is one area the government should have thought about, because these children are known. If they are not known by their admission numbers, they are known by the presence in certain specific schools. I remember during the old days, when I was in high school here in Mangu, there used to be some bursary from the county government for some certain counties. And the headmaster would announce in the morning that all those children from Murang'a, they should see me in the morning, because the county government was responsible and they were taking money to the school, and those students who came from Murang'a in that particular school or in any other school would be able to be beneficiaries of that. Some counties like mine were not as lucky. But there was also some bursary from the national government and the headmaster in the...
We're talking about districts back then.
Yes, district. It was not county, but yes, it was district. Counties came in the other day. So at the end of the day, the headmaster would be able to monitor a child who is a bit needy. And on the basis of that, they will be able to give some bit of bursary and assist so that every child goes through the program in high school. At the university level and even other tertiary institutions, we were given what we are calling boom, because the government was trying to make it easy for a child from every other home, so that the piece of soap that I use is the same piece of soap that Philip is going to use regardless of the parent's background, by getting certain little amount of money. And also a child was learning how to budget. All those things have been thrown through the window. Many leaders today, including ourselves here, if it was not because of government managing resources to target every child who was afforded to move from one level to the other, would not be in school, would have been left. Possibly I would be either an MC or another funny guy in Trans Nzoia today. But because of that kind of money, it came. So what we are trying to recommend, and I'm happy the Honorable Bokisho is not here today, to the government is that let us be transparent about the little resources we are getting. Let the president not spend a lot of time trying to convince people. You can convince people better by ensuring you are doing the right thing. If you are doing the right thing, you don't need to convince anybody. Today, people talk about Kibaki, but he never went on the rooftop of a car to explain this is what we are doing on this, this is what we are doing on this. Yes, you may convince us now, but in the long run, we'll know that you made a situation that could have been assisted a total failure in our country.
Okay.
That's what the fear I have.
And as Bonakirwa says, if it's working, it's working, and people will see it is working. Yeah. We have a system here that everyone is complaining about. A system that is designed not necessarily to work properly, because you mentioned previous systems and formulas to ensure that each person is catered for, including the very needy. Yeah. That is the same debate we're having this time round. The formula used to classify students or learners with regard to what they need to benefit from the bursaries and loans is what people are complaining about. The banding of students, band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4, band 5. On the front page of the Daily Nation, of the People Daily this morning, they talk about, I think I do have it there, that people are lying about their status. So there's an issue of integrity as well. And they say that the biggest problem with help, loans and funding is that people are giving the wrong data. They're saying they are needy when they're not. And everyone, including students from very affluent families, are benefiting more from government allocation than those who are really needy. In the absence of proper data, should we really pursue such a system which is prone to abuse?
Before I talk about that, let me remind my colleagues that we had county governments. We had county governments. And we are beneficiaries of those county governments. You mentioned quite often that I have served as a member of the East African Legislative Assembly. I learned from Arusha that when they were constructing staff houses in Arusha, they got a loan from Muranga County Council. Muranga County Council had excess.
They loaned Arusha.
They loaned the EAC in Arusha. And I am sure Waziri is here. He can confirm that I am not giving information that is not correct. So counties then, we had Nakuru County Council, a very progressive county. I just wanted to correct that bit of history. What was there then that we don't have today? And that's the question we are asking ourselves. Data is supposed to be within the Bureau of Statistics or something like that. Yeah. We are supposed to have a functioning Bureau of Statistics. But this animal called corruption that we have literally refused to look at it to the face and ask and fight it and get it out of government systems is the problem. If they wanted the data, they would get it. I can tell you, without any fear of contradiction, that it was reported the other day. We have schools that have got a name and a location, students and teachers that receive capitation, and they don't exist. They don't exist anywhere. Yet, in that location, there is government. From the sub-chief to every government system is there. So why are we not able? What other data are you looking for? We have refused to be just good Kenyans. And this is why we are trying to look for reasons that we cannot give free education, just like we are not able to give good health facilities to our citizens. and when I say this, allow me to say that, well, if I belonged to this generation, probably I wouldn't be the person I am. Because even those days, we would go to the nearest health center and get quality treatment. Yeah, get vaccinated. You know, today, even for vaccinations, I have to be careful if I care about my family. So we just need a brave, courageous, wise man or woman at the top and look at us at the face and tell Kenyans, I am here and this nonsense has to stop. We have so many institutions, EAC, DCI, I don't know what, and they are chasing the wind. They're not touching the buttons that we require for the country to lift so that we can save our generations. Sorry for getting angry, but it's the truth.
It is something that can annoy you because education is right at the heart of this society. And you mentioned, Wanakisia, the way different heads of state, different presidents of this republic have handled education and how positive and how it ranked in the list of their priorities. Do you see a possibility that President William Ruto could end up being the president that messed up the education sector, that everyone was progressively trying to ensure that education improves, but then once we get to him, everything starts crumbling?
You know, Fred, as I said earlier, President Ruto had an opportunity to make things better, particularly given his background. He never came from...
He has been a minister for education.
Given his background. Background is not what you found yesterday. It is where you came from many years ago. I don't think he was a minister. He just came into politics, courtesy my good friend Cyrus in 1992. But before then, I think he was a student at the university carrying a Bible. You see, I think what probably the challenge President William Ruto is having is trying to make things better and look better than the people who are there before, which is perfectly in order because we all believe in continuous improvement, that you must make things better. But I think the challenge that President Ruto is having is trying to use our children as guinea pigs. Okay? You know, when you're introducing, when you are changing anything, a system, a product, a service, the question a good manager would ask himself or herself is, why am I changing this? Has it worked? If it has worked, what can we do to make it better? But you do not just come and change something that is working so that you can go on record as somebody who made a change. Because that change can be detrimental to the society, to the community. So if our President Ruto, and he's now trying to convince our children that the model that he has come up with is the best for them without even consultation. And I followed the town hall meeting yesterday very keenly. I followed it. And our children were telling him that they were never consulted, and even where they were consulted, their views were not taken into account. And it looks like that is the style of this administration, of not consulting. And even where they appear to be consulting, they already have a fixed mind of what they want to do. So change is good, yes, but change only to improve the existing thing. And let me say this, Fred. If you look at the presidents that we've had before, starting from Jomo himself, even Arap Moi, who had his own challenges in terms of education. Then we had Kibaki, we had Uhuru. Look at the people they placed the responsibility of managing that docket. Did they go for mediocre? Just go back to the record. You will find that these people were grounded in matters education. They understood what needed to be done in that docket. But just look at the people. I don't have a lot of information on the current CS for education, but I doubt whether he has been there. I doubt whether he has the requisite experience and management capabilities to run that docket. And perhaps that is why the president himself had to appear in a town hall meeting at the last minute to avert a crisis. You know, it is normally said, it is better that you make a mistake because it makes you humble than appear to succeed where there's no success and appear to be arrogant. So why can't you just humble yourself, consult people who have been there before, consult the stakeholders, and they will tell you where the shoe is paining. Don't always appear to have the solutions to everything, because you don't.
Okay. Bonakirwa, is it possible for the president to go back on this? Because you've seen his insistence, this will stay despite the flaws and the obvious questions. Plus, do you think he has bitten more than he could chew? We've seen the radical shift in how health is being managed, doing away with NHIF and forcing a new system that is yet to even pick up months after NHIF was removed. Then, now in education, a major shift in the university funding model that everyone is up in arms. Is he doing more than he can handle?
Well, I think the problem is this management style. The president does believe that he is the ultimate provider of wisdom, knowledge, and capacity to think. He does not realize that there are many people who have been in this town who think perhaps better than him. My late mother, when I was young, used to tell me, the day you realize there are people who are as intelligent as you are, or even more intelligent, that's the time I would have known that you're intelligent. The president should realize there are people who are as intelligent as he is, if not more intelligent than him, and also exposed in certain areas of expertise. He's not an expert in education, but he pretends to be an expert in all things, including some basic engineering information, which he doesn't have. My major challenge with him is that look at the curriculum. He brought the curriculum, and the position he took during the campaigns is different from the position he took when he took over the government. And he still wanted us to believe that curriculum was very good, and yet there was no piloting of that curriculum. I remember whether it's a Minde report, whether it is any of the reports that we did when we were doing history of education, there must have been piloting for any new program of education, so that upon piloting, you are able to make amends on areas you realize you are falling short of the expectations of that particular curriculum. This curriculum that we have has not been piloted effectively, and no feedback from the piloting has been achieved. That is problem number one. The second issue is funding model. He talks about a model that, and I don't understand because I did education myself at a certain basic level, and there is something that if you are a teacher and you are trying to explain and you realize the class does not understand, don't blame the class. Blame yourself. Perhaps it is you who is not articulate enough, or you do not have the subject content sufficiently. This is what the president is trying to explain, and yet he has failed completely. The third issue, which is a problem with him, is in competition with everybody. He wants to beat Kenyatta one, he wants to beat Moi, he wants to beat Kibaki, he wants to beat Uhuru. He wants to be the best president that Kenya ever had. Kenyatta one had his own challenges and he had his own opportunities. That's the time we were allocating 1 million acres to Kenyans to transit from the British hands to the hands of the indigenous Kenyans. So he doesn't have land to give to anybody, apart, of course, giving to himself. The second issue is that you cannot compete with Moi when it comes to expanding education opportunities in this country. Number three, you cannot compete with Kibaki when it comes to free primary education. Number three, you cannot compete with Uhuru for doing certain infrastructure opening, including some of the things that we thought they were too expensive, but they are the most convenient today, including the expressway. So some things, he needs to occupy that space, take back himself, have a meeting with himself, and realize he has ministers. Some of the issues he could have allowed ministers to explain, and when he realized there is failure in communication, they can change without having some rotten eggs on his face. Otherwise, he will end up being the president that tried everything and nothing succeeded. That is the verdict I have for President Ruto.
Okay. We talk about crisis in schools. A lot happening. The teachers are going on strike. Mpox is also a threat to learners getting back to school beginning today. Parents, meanwhile, are juggling between paying fees and paying other bills, including the high university fees. Universities, meanwhile, are supposed to be starting their first semesters or for their academic year this September. Head teachers are up in arms over the capitation amount government disbursed last week. Still no money for schools, and it is the shortest term with the national exam, KCSE, coming at the end of this term. Saving grace, at least there's no KCPE this term. Anyway, matters education, and it will continue being a big discussion point. Let's stay with some actions by the president this past week. And we saw a return of some interesting faces back to government. Eli Doalo, former Minister for ICT, is back now in a new portfolio as Deputy Head of Public Service, charge of Public Service, Performance and Delivery Management. Meanwhile, Moses Kuria is back, but now occupying an advisor position in the Economic Advisors Panel. I think that's where David D sits. And one wonders, should we expect to see more faces back, like everyone who had occupied a cabinet position? The president appears to be very keen in protecting the people he appointed in the first instance. There's been a lot of talk about him being held hostage by that group, the initial cabinet. This could lay some credence to that, to those rumors.
Fred, I mentioned it here. Like, the president is hostage to individuals. It wouldn't sound good to talk about a cartel. I want to be fair, but it has all the variables that makes it look like a cartel. And he has been held hostage, and the country is suffering because of that. either they know too much that has happened in the last 1.5 years, that he has to have a leash, around, pulling them around, so that they don't have the opportunity to talk outside the systems. Over the weekend, I did see somebody a lady, talking about I was given a 1 point something edible oil, and that happened when Moses Kuria was out of the leash. So that lady talks and he's pulled back. It's a game. And like Waziri says, to think that we are not seeing it, we are not following the movements, we cannot interpret it. Somebody tell the president he's an open book. And even the least intelligent can read the pages of his book. And I keep on saying it's deliberate. It is a strategy. It is meant to achieve something. And as Kenyans, and especially the Gen Zs, saw where it is leading. Unfortunately, but fortunately, the president has been given an opportunity because the temperatures are down. But instead of picking this opportunity to leverage, he's now bringing back the same old characters and their baggage. I really do pray that he will get it right. But I can look at the president to his face and tell him he is captive to a very, very small, and I mean small, group of Kenyans that do not care about his legacy. They do not care. They do not care about how, I mean, he runs the country. It is for that small group. It is about me, I, and myself. The president is not even an equation in it, but there's something they know about him, and they have, they have to keep on reminding him. So the day as Kenya, we will know what that deal was. It will help us probably get out of the situation or pick the whole lot using the Gen Z and others and throw them off the big ship that is called Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
When in case you're watching the president and making some of these moves, he has a prerogative to fire and hire, and we've seen other presidents before him do so without batting an eye. They feel nothing. They can fire through the radio, and you can actually tell he's a very powerful president. So it's either William Ruto is a political master schemer, or he's just a weak president. Which is which?
He is neither of the two. I think it's borders more on the inability of somebody to, I'm trying to find the words, inability of somebody to manage, the job that he has been given. Because see, my sister talks about the president being held captive, that the president is being held hostage. President William Ruto is a good politician. Let us give it to him. He survived for 30 years. He should know that if a few characters, for whatever reason, are holding him captive, hostage, that there are 57 million Kenyans who are going to hold him captive and hostage. So which one is a better thing to do? To be held captive by a few individuals, or to focus on the larger good, the larger population, who can Gen Z you? You know, who can make life extremely difficult for you? Those few characters, 2, 3 characters, 4 characters, 10 characters, 20 characters, 100 characters, as a president, he can deal with them. And if he's unable to deal with them, there are people who can deal with them on his behalf. We are available to do that job for the dirty job for him. If he's scared, for whatever reason.
You're offering your services.
For whatever reason. For whatever reason. Mumbi doesn't know to say it, but for whatever reason. We don't know the reasons. But if there are, then transfer that challenge to somebody else who can do it for you. You see, the president has just been saved by our party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga. The man was sinking. In fact, he had sunk, and he has admitted over the weekend that he had actually sunk. Now, he's even making our party leader look terrible. Why? Because you have been removed from the mud, you have been cleaned. Instead of using that opportunity now to do better than you have been doing, you are doing even worse. He had announced some austerity measures. And he had said, I'm reducing the advisors that I have. Even before the ink could dry, he has already come up with some people calling them advisor this, deputy advisor that, creating jobs which do not exist. You know, in management, it's a very serious matter. When you create an office that does not exist, that is not going to add value, or rather, because President Ruto is actually blessed, if he must give his friends jobs, he can appoint them to certain portfolios within his private companies. But for heaven's sake, do not use public funds, to support your buddies and friends, because they're holding you hostage. Okay? So, I mean, I don't know how it will settle with the people of Kenya, particularly the millennials and Gen Zs, who seem to have, retreated for the time being. When you start again your bad behaviors, coming up with offices that don't exist, that are not going to add value, and so on and so forth. You see, we are crying, we're in crisis. Doctors have no salaries. Public servants have not been paid. And you are playing PR on very serious matters. You're not playing PR on matters of education. So you're saying you have no money to do this. Very critical sectors, very critical areas to deal with. You're talking about the future of your children. You're talking about generations to come, laying a solid foundation for education for the generations to come. People have not been born. Instead of doing that, you have a chisel and you are actually demolishing the foundation. I think President Ruto needs to relook at himself and decide whether he really still wants to govern until 2027 or whether he wants people, and particularly our children, back on the streets because of his bad behavior. He should not imagine, even for 1 second, that because people have taken a tactical retreat, that they're happy with what is happening.
Okay. Bwana Kirwa, perhaps the biggest weakness of this president is he's held a premium on loyalty. And his friends, he spent incredible amounts of time trying to ensure that his friends are comfortable. He had even made provision for 50 CASs to reward loyalists. That did not work. It means that burden he still carries it to date. That if he continues the way he is, that could be his biggest downfall. The fact that he has so many people to please and he feels that that burden is still real for him to carry even today.
Yeah, there are a number of things. I think I want to reward him for being loyal to his friends, those who have been loyal to him. At the same time, I just want to remind him there are more opportunities than just being in government, that you can thank your friends for doing certain things. Remember Obama 1 and Obama 2. There are people who appeared in his first campaign, played a lot of roles, made Obama win the election. But in the intervening period, when Obama formed the government, those individuals were not seen anywhere. But they must have been somewhere doing business, legitimate business, and they came back to campaign for him for his second term. This is what the president should learn from that kind of Obama 1 and Obama 2. Number 2, it is also self-admission that lack of performance by the CSS who were sacked, he was a contributor to that lack of performance. And therefore, this is admission that Eliud Owalo and Moses Kuria did not have anything to do with the lack of or underperformance by the first 2 years of Ruto's government. And therefore, they are good people, and he's bringing them back because he just wanted to face his face, to save his face in the public domain. And that's why I've insisted that he's giving political answers to integrity issues. So he's still continuing to give political answers to integrity issues. The third issue, which I think is also important for him, is that in politics it's not about job seeking. At times it's always good to do something that is believable in the eyes of the public. That's why I want to agree with Philip that at the end of the day, it is President Ruto who will carry the burden, that the Ruto government never delivered because of the president himself. In Kenya, we don't see, when we talk of Kibaki 1, Kibaki 2, we were individuals playing our roles, but nobody will give us credit. Even those who did not like Kibaki, nowadays are saying Kibaki performed. And you forget Kibaki performed because I was in that government, he was in that government, and that is how he performed. So at the end of the day, the president should realize it's not about winning the next election. It is what impact is he going to leave on the lives of Kenyans. That is my worry, and my worry is that up to now, even the rest of them who have not been appointed must be queuing to be appointed because they know there is still an opportunity, because after all, they were not leaders, they were job seekers.
Okay. And Bonakiro suggests that probably this is an over-preoccupation by the president about winning re-election come 2027. Do you agree that that is a main issue? And 3 years to go, if he focuses too much on his re-election bid, what does it mean for the country?
Fred, I want to say this. I think the president is immune. And this immune syndrome is shared by his team. And it is a strategy. He's immune to hearing anything that is good deliberately. He is immune to seeing evil. He is immune to smelling anything evil. And this is what I'm saying is a strategy. And I think the members of his team, the few that we are talking about, must have gone through this drill of being immune. It is see no evil, hear no evil, talk no evil, feel nothing. So it is about us. And for us to be us, you have to think about me, I, and yourself. So it's a strategy. It's damn bad strategy for the country because the 57 something or 52 million Kenyans do not fit anywhere near what we are talking about. And I like my plea from Philip Kisia that the millennials and the Gen Zs are looking at this and they are telling him no. But he is immune to no. And therefore this saying that let him not think that all is good. Even after being painted and cleaned by my party leader, you know, they are talking to us. And those of us who are ODM, we are also being sent to our party leader. That is on him has now splashed on him comfortably. and they're telling me, they're telling me, go say it. At least they know I am past the civil service age. So I don't qualify for PS and all those kind of things. So they're saying, we are telling you, because if we send somebody who is younger than you and they are waiting for a job, they may not say it. Tell your boss. The mud, the cow dung, the sewer has been splashed on him.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Those are I am quoting them verbatim.
Okay.
So it will be very difficult for my boss to fit in that immunity group because he doesn't belong there. He doesn't belong there. He still cares about the country. So every time he tries to look for a brush to brush himself, and it's not working. It is sad because they call themselves hustlers. I don't like using that term. They had an opportunity to bring it to the world that you really don't have to be, okay, I'm trying to be nice, a pedigree. A pedigree. I think that is diplomatic enough. You don't have to be a pedigree to fit, to do a good thing at the helm of leadership in this country. But you know, now those that believe in the pedigree are now saying, we told you. Yes. Yeah, we said it. You just...
It wasn't going to work.
You don't teach. It's not going well. Okay. You get angry. You get angry because we even us who did not vote for him, because I didn't, and I'm very proud that I didn't vote for him. If I did, I think I would be rearing mad. Probably I would be undressing at the gate of State House. So, oh yeah. No, I can say it from where I sit that if I'm feeling it, I'm feeling that anger. What about people who genuinely believed that he's going there to do a cleanup with all the masses that supported him, and yet he goes there, he plugs his eyes, he puts blinds on his face, and he's enjoying it because that cartel has a deal about this country. They are going to rip us to the bone. It's annoying.
It's sad, but even as we continue this conversation, I'd like to draw your attention to the front page of Taifa Leo. We used a very interesting picture of the president and Raila Odinga. In fact, I had to go to read down there to realize that this person was facing away from the president. If my director could help me with that, yeah, is actually Raila Odinga. Ruto achumbia Nyanza, Ziara yake katika ngome kuu ya Raila Jumatano yatazamwa kama mwanzo wa urithi wa kura za Odinga. And they've used a photo of the two men, but you cannot see Raila Odinga. He's facing the other direction. Now you can only see the president's face. A very interesting choice of picture there by the editors at Taifa Leo. But Bwana Kisia, what exactly is going on here? Do you think the president is really just focused and obsessed with his re-election come 2027, even if things don't work out right now? Is looking for his loyalists, ensuring that they get jobs simply to secure his re-election come 2027? And you'll do anything for that?
I think you're right, Fred. And I like, Taifa Leo, I think this nation, they've done a good job. I suspect that my party leader is getting uncomfortable with the head of state, and therefore he has to hide his face because it is not even a month. And the country is getting from bad to worse. So you can understand why probably our party leader decided not to face him in the eye. You see, there are no miracles. I know. This is one administration that had employed 200 people to pray. And it's good that, that sometimes in times of challenges that you turn to prayer. But prayer alone cannot deliver anything. There are no miracles that are going to happen. People must just work. You must get people who are competent around you to deliver on the country's, first of all, the country's vision. Because you see, when you are been given an opportunity to provide leadership, you don't come with your vision. This country has a vision. So he, for the time being, he's a carrier of our vision. He should be more focused on delivering what we put in Vision 2030. That should be his priority number one. But I suspect, I may be wrong, Fred, I may be wrong, that William Ruto is obsessed with getting a second term because of the many bad things that have happened in the last few years. Bad things. And I mean really bad things. You know, we've never seen this level of corruption since independence. And I suspect that because of those bad things that have happened, he doesn't appear to be having so much time to correct the mistakes that have happened in the last 2 years. And therefore, he is really working hard. He is really struggling to make sure that by hook or crook, he gets his second term. That second term will enable him, most likely, to correct the mistakes. Because right now, he is under so much intense heat. He is under so much heat from the people he promised to deliver, leave alone the people he promised jobs. Like my sister says, you know, those are a few characters, you can deal with them. You can even jail them. Some of them are known thieves. Some of them are known murderers. There are so many things you can do, and you can deal with them. But he has 57 million Kenyans who he promised things, who he promised heaven, who he promised milk. But right now he's feeding Kenyans on chili sauce. So Kenyans are going through a lot of pain. Therefore, you can understand and you can forgive President William Ruto for going overdrive in making sure that he even inherits Nyanza and together with the Western Province, so that if Central Province decided to walk out of the marriage in 2027, that he'll have a basket that he can pick from. But I can tell my friend, good friend, and my president, oh, he's my president and friend, maybe he has forgotten. I can tell him that if he does not use the next 2 years, at least to deliver something to the Kenyans, Kenyans will also go overdrive in making sure that he does not get a second term. He should not be obsessed, in inheriting. Let him not waste too much time trying to inherit Nyanza and Western Province from Raila. Who told him that Raila is going to retire? knowing Raila may be back in 2026. And then what happens? And who told him that even minus Raila, there are no other formidable forces that will come? Maybe this is the time that Philip Kisi will come up very strongly and show him what we are made of. Wow. So he should not be obsessed. He should not be obsessed on what will happen in 2027. Let him be obsessed in delivering on what he promised.
Yes, but it is the concern of any sitting president that in the first term you do not really want to trigger negatively the voters that you will be counting on for a second term. That probably you ensure you do everything, get your mathematics correct, just to get to the second term, at least with the comfort of knowing that you do not have any other re-election that you need to work towards. Then you'll be better able to work and deliver some legacy projects for yourself. That is the same problem that this president is facing. Are you being too unfair in saying that he is a bit too obsessed with re-election?
No, you're not being unfair. I'm sure he must be as worried as any other person, because not to get a re-election for somebody young like him, somebody extremely ambitious like him, because I think if you were to ask President William Ruto, where does he want to go? He would actually want to be the president of East Africa, if not the entire continent of Africa. And therefore, this is just some kind of appetizer for greater things that he has in his mind. Only to realize this one actually is escaping from his threshold. But I just wanted to invite ourselves to that photograph that you saw and remind ourselves that the president is actually messing the suit of the Honorable Prime Minister by hugging him so closely, using the words of Dr. Mumbi Ngaro. Number two, those of us who have been trained a bit in what we call industrial psychology, including body language, you realize the president is actually amused at his own gymnastics, that this is the Muganga, I used to call him Muganga, this is the Kitendawili fellow, this is the person I made all Kenyans believe that he's not religious, and I'm not hugging him, and he's not looking at Raila, he's looking at the crowd he wants to inherit from Raila. Now, akin to some of the dances, I'm told, from some parts of Kenya, that some people, they hold the lady next to him, but he's looking at the lady across the floor. So this is something that is very interesting for the president. But finally, I think it's important for the president to realize that Kenyans are forgiving. If he was to be genuine for the next 2 years, he may get a re-election. But if he continues trying to argue even about things that we were well trained on and we know better than many people, and he pretends that Kenyans are not as intelligent as they should, it is he who will be shocked on the voting day come August 2027.
Okay. Enough of the president and his recent actions and what to expect of him in the coming future. There's also a story about matter security. It's on the Daily Nation. 2 stories that feature on page 2 and 3 of the Nation. One on what's happening with the force that was sent to Haiti. It features on the front page, police in Haiti facing pay delays. Now, this is according to their relatives back home. The other story is on page 3, and it talks about a special unit that was used in Wanjigi home raid and abductions. A rights group say police officers must be left to carry out their work. The unit was formed following the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 protests, whose magnitude caught state unawares. So, in as far as security is concerned, and our police service, which has also undergone a lot of transformation, there's been a lot of pronouncements by this president that how police will act, how independent they will be, what we will not witness, what we will not see going forward, including police abductions. Now we're just entertained to almost movie-like scenes at the home of Jimmy Wanjigi, the Safina party leader. And those are things that Kenyans only see in movies. Now it would appear there's a special unit that is carrying out these movies. Jimmy Wanjigi's residence was one. There was another one in Muranga, same unit, different cases, where they wear balaclavas, cover their faces, they're hooded, no one knows who they are, but they are a special unit. The creation of these small special police units was also a bone of contention during the campaigns. There was a unit within the DCI office that was called a special unit. And when Kenya Kwanza was campaigning, they were saying that this should never happen again, that they would disband all such units. Now we're seeing within 2 years, they found a necessity or utility for such a police unit. What does it portend for the country going forward?
It's one of the strategies of staying in power. And as we talk about his second term, I'll look you straight on the face and tell you that he is prepared. And the strategy from where I sit is to make sure, number one, there will be no elections, because going through elections will not be interesting.
What do you mean there'll be no elections?
There will be no elections. You just have to look at the dynamics. And I said it, and I will repeat it here. There will be no elections.
In 2027?
Yeah, there will not be any.
What will be there instead?
It will be something looking like an election, but it will not be elections. Because going for elections and the trend that he has now does not make sense. People, the Kenyans that me and Philip are talking about, intelligent Kenyans and Gen Zs and millennials that will show him the door, and you think he will allow it? I beg to differ. And before we get to the end of next year, you will see a clamor from various regions, probably including Nyanza and other places where the term limit will be removed, and a few complications about elections and that kind of. It is all geared to make sure that he stays. We can argue about it, about how democratic we are and all those kind of things. But you have just mentioned about that special unit. And look at what happened when we had that special unit. We had it during Kenyatta time. And if you've forgotten, I will remind you that they did almost similar things to the JEMs of JEM karaoke of that time. We had that special unit during Moi's time. And you can pick...
Is that what was called special branch?
They change names, just like we are moving from cooperation, nusu mkate, now we are broad-based. But the principles, it smells like a duck, it quacks like a duck. You know, we had that special unit, even during Kibaki's time. It was there. Yeah, it dealt with Akina, the late Otieno Mbai, if you have not forgotten. And we had it during Kenyatta, the second Kenyatta time. If you don't have the cracking of ducks and looking like duck, it is there.
This is it.
It is there. So he, in his strategy of hearing no evil, seeing no evil, feeling no evil, is a strategy to retain power beyond 2032. Yes. And this is why I keep on insisting that team that we are saying just a few people, 100 or 200 people, they have a bigger agenda. The good thing, the greatest thing about this whole arrangement is not about the 200 people who are being paid to pray for this country. I can tell you, this country we literally are in the hands of God. We jump out of it, but where we try to land, we still find that in His grace, He has placed His hands for us to land on His hands. But I can say without any fear of contradiction that the agenda is bad.
Wow.
It's bad. We are not included in the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Kenyans, the 50-something million, we are not included.
Okay.
Yeah, we are not. That's why our children's education is not important to them. That's why security is not important to them. And this is why those that are stepping on the toes have to face that special.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely a tool for countering dissent. It is very clear. But the utility of that only 2 years into the administration is what many people are questioning. Probably it's a threat or the threat to his administration that he faced with the protests. We saw something similar after the 82 attempted coup debacle, that the president then felt the need to stamp his authority and to counter dissent. Are we saying that this president is feeling the need this time round?
You know, first of all, you know, you must look at the operating environment. What sort of environment, political environment, social, economic environment did we have that time? Technology, do we have that time? Vis-a-vis what we have now. These are totally two different operating environments. And therefore, and as a student of strategy, the first thing I can tell you, you cannot apply the same strategy, if you call it strategy, using, you use a strategy that was applicable for a different environment, for a new environment. You must change strategy. So if President Ruto thinks he can survive using the old strategy, the Moi strategy, in a different operating environment, he will fail. He is going to fail. And I must give the people of Kenya hope. I can see my sister is very scared that this president will go beyond 2032. He must pray that even he gets to 32. There are so many factors that can make sure that we don't even get to 27. So forget about 32, 27 should be his biggest worry. You know, we have seen dictators in Africa. We have seen dictators come and fall. Mighty fellows. Forget about William Ruto. Mighty. Those of us who are here, we heard of Idi Amin Dada. Yeah? A man who was feared by mankind. He went. Recently, we saw the Prime Minister of Bangladesh being airlifted like a slaughtered chicken and put in a helicopter and taken to safety. These are things that are happening elsewhere. They can happen anywhere. So, you see, the only guarantee that my friend can have is not the 200 people that I'm talking about. It is not even the military. It cannot be the military. It cannot be the special police unit that he has created. Those have been there in other jurisdictions, but mighty people have fallen. So what he needs to do is to have faith, confidence, and serve the people who have elected him. The 57 million Kenyans. That is where his guarantee is. Anything short of that group of people, he is mistaken, he is dreaming, and his time may even be shortened. So I'm not afraid, I'm not worried as to whether you are going to increase those 200 people to 300 people, or 400 people, or even the army and the security agencies, another special service. In Kenya, we only have about 130,000 of them put together in a basket against a population of 57 million Kenyans. You can imagine what 2 million Kenyans can do to you. The only guarantee, Fred, you have as a person in leadership at that level is to serve your people with humility, is to deliver on your promises, is to address their needs. Anything short of that, you run the risk of being chased out of your own home like a burukenge.
Okay. Murakirwa, the utility or necessity of such a police unit. Dr. Ngaru said that, yes, even during Kibaki's time, there was such an element. And why do you feel, why would any administration need this in 2024, a special unit to be called just to ensure you stamp on dissent?
Well, it's a clear demonstration that law and order has broken down, because in a decent regime, and I'm not suggesting that Kibaki 1 or 2 was not decent, when there is a clique of people, you know, in every regime, there are some individuals who believe that they are the ones who are sustaining that particular regime. Remember, in Kenyatta 1, there was some group from central Kenya who believed that that was their domain. And even within the larger central Kenya or the larger Mount Kenya block, there was some talk that the motorbikes will not cross certain positions, either River Chania or wherever. Because there are some people, my former colleague, Peter Ndwiga, calls them make-believe. People who believe this regime belongs to them, including the one that we have today. There are people who believe that they own this regime and it is they to sustain it. But when they run short of ideas, they resort to extra judicial ideas, including extrajudicial killings and abductions of the young people that we are seeing today. But the special branch, just to shed some light on that, was a special unit of DCI, the current DCI, that broke away for certain specific duties of investigation, getting information without the force of law. And that information was useful for the state to understand certain intelligence. Now, the precursor of what we call now NIS, National Intelligence Service, that was a special branch. So it was a arm of police, but now dealing with the certain specific assignments, but they were not the ones who are using issues of killing.
Isn't that the same thing?
But some of them morphed.
Because they're saying, according to the nation, there's established that these are not the ordinary police officers from either the elite DCI units or General Service Unit. These men, according to highly placed sources, are elite officers from the National Intelligence Service, NIS.
No, but I just wanted to create the distinction that the NIS or this NIS is officially known. Special branch was also officially known that they were officers who were getting intelligence of government. They were in plain clothes, but they were not abducting people. But when you get some of these individuals, they may not even be from the system. They may be individuals who have been hired for that particular assignment. And if NIS was to release police or one of their own to do this kind of duty, that is failure on the director of NIS. It should not, NIS, under the current constitution, is not supposed to do extrajudicial killing. It's supposed to get information, present it to the system, and the system will now process that information and take action, whatever the case is. But should they do that particular thing, I can tell my brother Haji, he will actually be visiting contempt on himself. If they are not supposed to do that. If they are doing it, it is wrong. But I suspect this could even be done by individuals who are not even in government. Individuals who believe Ruto and themselves are one and the same thing. And they are doing this to preserve Ruto from political demise. And the moment you get to that level, you are making all Kenyans get worried about you as an individual and you as a system. The second issue I just wanted to visit is the issue of Haiti. Haiti, for me, was a mission to nowhere. And I remember we were saying Haiti ni Haiti. Now, it was just a money-minting exercise by the regime, sending our children to go and suffer. For them, if they have gotten the money and they have eaten, it doesn't mean anything. They are happy. Whether those will be finished there or they will come back alive, that will be another case. But finally is this issue of abductions, Fred. It is worrying me. I saw a family in Kitengela, a family in Muranga, the president of Students' Council. I don't know whether he has been released. The moment a regime gets to that level, I just want to beg the president, when you get to that level where you have to force fear, instill fear on your people, then that is the beginning of the end. While I want to agree with Philip, President Ruto, I just pray for him to get to 2027, face an election, win or lose. Because anything else in between is worrying me. But I also want to beseech my sister, Dr. Mumbi, that because she has predicted good things in the past and they came to pass, now she's predicting doom, that President Ruto will go beyond the year 2032. I'm worried. I suspect I will still be alive, and I would hate to imagine that we'll allow him to overstay his invitation. It worries me.
Okay. As we come to the end of the conversation, I think it's right that you comment on this issue of Haiti. Bonakirwa has gone into it as well. They say the families of Kenyan police officers deployed to Haiti have complained that they are yet to be paid since they started the peacekeeping mission in the Caribbean nation. These revelations come only 2 months after the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken ordered the release of the equivalent of 14.1 billion shillings to finance the mission that was approved by the United Nations. We know that the United Nations and the US do not delay with this kind of money usually. When the mission is already done, I'm sure the money should be available. These people have been there for about 2 months or so now. They've not been paid.
Fred, we talked about the Haiti issue, and even advised the president that our country shouldn't be involved. But the money, the dollars were smelling, like I said. He has closed himself to anything that we say. It is sad because those officers have got families that are here. Political grapevine says the money was paid to Kenya. And there were complaints that instead of the 100,000, they were getting 20,000. If you check around, you will smell such things. And this is why I get a bit worried that we can't see it, the writing on the wall. That his strategy of remaining in power is not about what democracy and ICT and social media. It's different. Violence, including fear is a part of violence, has been a strategy time immemorial. Those who are Christians can tell you that violence has never lacked in strategy of remaining in power. So is in Islam, so is, and even in our traditional kingdoms, the native kingdoms, violence has always been a part of those other equations that you bring to retain power. So I can say it without any fear of contradiction. I'm not predicting doom. My brother, senior, Waziri, but I'm not going to close my eyes to the fact that everybody is seeing it, but we are not prepared to talk about it. We could all see education going to the dogs. We are being nice because probably I don't have children. And now the cry of parents is out in the air. The day that schools are supposed to open, my plea is that we shouldn't really be keeping quiet and not to feel like we are upsetting or to expose the fears that we have. we are dealing with somebody who is immune to pain. So let's talk about it. Probably, yeah, if we get it loud, he may not hear it. But people who are very close to him and very dear to him may hear it for us. Yeah.
Okay. And today, Dr. Ngaru's tone is different. Markedly different. When I kiss you, you wrap it wrap it up for us.
She has taken up my role of praising Rigiji. Now, let me say this in closing, Fred. You know, education is a future for any country. Kenya is where it is today because of the sound foundation that our forefathers laid. It will be a disaster if President Ruto goes down on record as somebody who failed to build on the foundation that was set by our predecessors. Education is not something you can play PR with. Let him just do the job that has been given. On Haiti, it is sad because the officers who went there have risked their lives. They have left families here. They went there knowing very well that that the risk was going to pay off heavily. They put their lives at risk. Then after doing all that, instead of now paying them what was agreed, you are leaving them dejected, demotivated. Eventually, a soldier who's demotivated, you know what will happen. The enemy will take full advantage of that situation and the results can be disastrous. Let me end by saying that Mama Lucy Kibaki, may God rest your soul in eternal peace. You warned us. You told us that please don't listen to people who are hollow. Don't listen to people who advertise themselves. Let the work that you are doing speak for itself. Mama, we refuse to listen to you. Instead, we not only brought in those people who you had warned us against, but you allowed us to bring in people with poor record, human rights, looters, corrupt, and people cannot be trusted. Mama, you are there in heaven. Please speak to the Almighty to recall these people because we are tired.
Okay. I don't think there's any other useful thing we can add there. Thank you so much, Philip Kisia, governance expert, leadership and governance expert, who also served as town clerk of this great city of Nairobi at one time. Dr. Mumbi Ngaru, who has served as a member of the East Africa Legislative Assembly and as mayor of Thika Town. And Ruto Arap-Kirwa, agriculture minister in the Kibaki One administration. Thank you so much for your time at TV47 and for helping us navigate through the many very consequential headlines that we've had, matters to do with education, security, and even the politics that is indeed part of our daily life here in Kenya. Thank you so much for that. After the break conversation, my colleague Stanley Nyarigita will be having Dr. Priyanka Buyar in studio discussing cornea eye transplant, and later on, enzyme